So the Starling Girl got top of the stack ratings from me. It was pretty good. Then Clean, Professor T Season 2, The Machine, and what is that one called? Concrete Cowboy or something? Yeah.
Looks like
Concrete Cowboys.
Is that Tom Selleck or something?
Yeah, it was. And deservedly bottom of the stack.
I guess it must be a pun on Rhinestone Cowboy. No? It'd be a cowboy who hangs around the city, an urban cowboy. That's what it's a pun. Urban cowboy.
Oh, okay. Seat's a bit wet. Anyway, I was looking at the pen test because of one of these shows. I'll talk about that in a bit. So I was looking at that today, and it's funny. Yeah, I'm more neurotic than I'd like to be. I'll talk about my results too. The Starling Girl. This, I never would have guessed this would be such a great movie, and it's put out this year, 2023, and it was 116 minutes long, so it's a little long, but it doesn't feel long. There's a lot of story there. I'll read the back. It says 17-year-old Jem Starling struggles with her place within her Christian fundamentalist community, but everything changes when Magnetic Youth Pastor Owen returns to their church. And this is so believable. If you're not from an environment like this, you might not believe it. But there are a lot of Christians who believe in dancing. I mean, my dad didn't think that, and a lot of Christians actually don't believe.
My parents did.
Fondly in dancing. It's like having sex in public, or something. It's not, yeah. So anyway, but there are a lot of Christians who believe strongly that the Spirit moves you and whatever, right? And so she's a dancer.
I think the Mormons are that way.
Yeah. So that's one thing. I was watching this and I'm like, fundamentalist, she's dancing. And it seemed kind of odd to me. She's wearing the long skirts and stuff like that. She's dressed like, maybe like a Mennonite or something. How you'd be accustomed to seeing Mennonite. But here she's dancing, and that seems odd to me. But, there's a whole rainbow of Christians out there that believe all sorts of different things.
More for with Christians than many, many other religions.
Sure, exactly. And so this, as much as you're watching this and you think, okay, well, this is fundamentalist Christian group, whatever she's from. But you could say the same thing about, a girl from another religion, like James said, from another fundamentalist religion, whatever.
Could you? Maybe.
You might be able to.
Yeah.
I mean, there'd be a lot of them out there that they would not be dancing. They're more fundamentalist than that, But, like I said, but there's things, like a Christian girl who has sex. Like at one point she's piercing her ear, and she's not allowed to do that, And I did a lot of that. So I remember when my grandma got my ears pierced when I was a little girl, like, I don't know, maybe 6 or something like that. And she wanted to do it, and my dad did not want her to do it, because if you mark the body, well, then you're ruined. You can't.
Now, he was a fundamentalist, but your grandma wasn't, right?
I didn't even think she was Christian for a long time. Like I saw that she wasn't like my dad, right? And so if he's Christian, well, she wasn't Christian. But she assured me, yes, I'm Christian. She was concerned about how Dad was raising us at that point.
She would have been raised probably Greek Orthodox, and then maybe shifted over to Roman Catholicism.
I don't know. I don't think she was Catholic at all. But she didn't talk about it. She had her own spirituality. She certainly believed in angels. She certainly believed that there's an afterlife. She was going to go to
she
heaven.
did.
You know, she was working on that. And anyway, I love my grandma. But my other grandma was Catholic. My French grandma.
She's still there.
Well, not now, because now she's dead.
I didn't know she was.
Oh, I didn't tell you. Yeah, I didn't want to worry you because you were sick. So she was dying there for a while,
Okay.
and I wanted to go, but I was like, I can't stress out James. So anyway, yep, there you go. So yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of things that, you know, I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah, here she is. She's not a bad person, but she's certainly shouldn't have done what she did. But is the onus on her, or is it on the man that she gets involved with? And I mean, she's just a girl. But yeah, when her mother tells her you're ruined, I thought, wow, that's something for a mom to say, you know. But
Never said that thing.
no, but that's what I thought when I was a teenager. I thought for sure I was ruined. But I thought that as soon as my ears were pierced, I thought I was ruined, and I was certain I was going to hell. So I don't know. I don't know how much of this sort of thing ended up shaping me into the person I am, but I do know that my dad's heart was in the right place with everything that he was doing. He genuinely loved me very much, and he wanted to make sure that I was going to go to heaven, and I see that now. So I love him with all my heart. And anyway, it's a great movie worth watching. And if you watch it and you think, you know, this is not believable, it's very believable, very much so. The thing that I have a problem with is the fact that she's dancing in the first place. That doesn't seem believable to me. But I know that there are different Christian groups that do believe in that, you know, so
The Mormons very much believe in it. They actually have dances in their religious institutions.
So, clean. It's funny because when I borrowed this out of the library yesterday, I was talking to an acquaintance there whom I like. He's another regular, and he shares my name. Well, half of it.
Yeah, he's there sometimes.
Yeah. And so I was talking about how he'd sat down, he had a book club meeting, and so he'd read for 3.5 hours straight so that he could get the book done because he hadn't started it and he had to go to the book club.
It might have been the only one.
And I said, well, you're going to know the book better than anyone. It's going to be really fresh in your mind. I said, I get through these movies and half the time, as soon as I've finished them, I can't remember what they were about. They're just not worth it, whatever. Anyway, we were talking, this was on the top of my checkout stack, and so he was looking at it and he was like, well, Adrian Brody, you know, he's usually pretty good, and we were talking about how he looks really bad there, you know, on the cover, but he produced this. I was reading in the credits too, and wow, did he ever do a great job.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought he was playing Willie Picton at Pig Farm.
Well, there's a lot of violence in here, but he's trying to save some people. He used to,
kind of the opposite of.
Well, he used
Willie
to do
Picton.
some bad stuff. He was rehabilitated because he lost a loved one.
Okay, it happens to some people.
And it changed him, right? So, but I mean, he's not somebody you'd want to mess with, and he's very protective of a a girl in the neighborhood that reminds him of his daughter, who he lost, right? And so nobody should have messed with that girl, but I guess people you don't know who, like James has talked about before, there was somebody that messed with, what was it, a mob boss's mom or something? And
mugged her on the street.
Learned the
last
lesson.
Thing pretty well he did.
Yeah.
Some lessons you can't apply.
You don't know who people are related to.
Yeah, but why mess around with people?
Yeah. So anyway, this is an amazing movie. I thought for sure I'd put it on the top of the stack. And when I was talking to the guy in the library, I'm like, I'm going to forget this one as soon as it's done. Nope. This one's worth remembering. It's worth watching. And I thought, okay, well, it's going to be a lot of violence. You see, the guy has a gun on the cover and the blood on his head and everything. And I thought, okay, just violence, whatever, But no, there's a story here, and Adrian Brody told it really well. Awesome job. So
sounds Irish, Brody. Maybe like his Irish.
Okay, so Professor T Season 2, this is a PBS show.
Professor T.
Yeah, I had forgotten who this was. I watched
You'd
season
heard about
1.
The character?
Well, I watched season 1.
Oh.
And I'd just forgotten what the show was. And it's about a guy who's OCD. So everything has to be a certain way. He's very, he wears gloves all the time. He's... Anyway.
Correct. Now, has he got a good memory too?
Yeah, he does. He's a pretty great character. But there was one point that I didn't like in this, was when he was talking to the police officer and he had solved the crime because the seat in the car was up where it was up for a shorter person, right, for a woman, and not for the man who was convicted or whatever, who said that he did it. And he wasn't convicted. They were working on it. They were going through the process of, he was, first he didn't say he did it, but then when it looked like he was trying to protect somebody, then he changed his plea to guilty, but he wasn't guilty. He was not at all. It was somebody else. So anyway, Professor T is talking to the police officers and he's like, we need to work together. You guys collect the evidence and that's great, and I do the personality thing, and we get the guy together kind of thing. But the thing is at that moment that didn't really fit, because he did the personality thing. That's the episode where he was talking about the pen test, which I will get into in a moment. But the evidence should have led them to the killer, or away from that guy anyway, because the seat, that's evidence. You look at that and you go, oh, well, this isn't set for this guy who said he made the getaway or whatever. So that didn't work for me. I was left with that thinking, nope, that's not good enough. And if you're making a show about an OCD person, you probably have your viewers either have that tendency or they love people who are OCD, and they're going to notice. They're going to notice these inconsistencies. It's I know it makes the job a lot harder having to write for OCD people, but
what the heck?
Do the job, PBS. So anyway, he talked about the pen test, so I will get into that. I wrote down some of the questions for James, and I have put the things on my blog.
Pen test, PEN?
Yeah, I can't remember what it stands for, but the middle is the extrovert. I don't know what it was.
Introvert, extrovert, and well, that was the only two that.
Well, one
Carl
would
Gustav
be neuroticism.
Okay.
And the other one would be something else. Oh, psychotic.
neurotic, psychotic, and then are those the two
Extrovert.
things?
Yeah,
Extrovert
apparently
and
if you're
introvert.
highly psychotic, neurotic, and extroverted, then you're more likely to be a criminal.
Okay. Okay, so you're going to give me the test?
I will eventually.
But not today.
Well, no. I don't know. I'll give you my results. I'm very introverted.
No kidding.
And like 91%.
Okay.
As opposed to 9% extroverted. And
Yeah.
63% stable, but 37% neurotic. And
Yeah.
honestly, I thought I'd be more neurotic than that.
That's low for
I'm not really
neurosis.
that surprised.
I know lots of people that I'd...
72% socialized and 28% psychotic.
That's
Like,
probably
so-
pretty low for psychotic.
Yeah,
They
72%
probably should
socialized.
use designations like that, like psychotic. But
I don't know.
No.
I didn't really care about it too much. But
doesn't mean much to me.
then I did another test, and it said that I had a high lie factor.
What
And
does
I
that
was
mean?
thinking, well,
You can put up with lies, or
no,
you
no, no.
tell lies?
I'm lying to make myself seem better than I am, or whatever. Usually.
Well, are you lying now?
No, well, that's the thing.
So you
Is
can
I'm
take
not.
that to the bank, folks.
Yes, because I don't care what other people think. And I was thinking about the test because they asked some questions that I think that I was more truthful, and that's why I got such a high lie factor. And I will explain why. Like, do you prefer to have few but special friends? I put yes. But I like a lot of plant friends and few human friends.
You
And
don't
so I'm
mind
not
having a fair
sure.
number of animal friends, too?
I didn't know exactly what to put
Well,
for that.
I mean
And
human friends.
and do you like going out a lot? You betcha I do. I like going out every day. If the
Yeah,
weather
they
is good,
didn't-
I love going out
they didn't
and
mean
hiking
that.
away
Yeah.
from people.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They
So
didn't mean
I
that.
was like, okay, what are they asking me that? Because do I like going out on the town? Never. Do I like
That's-
going out and socializing with people? Never.
Mm.
So, and I think that's what they were asking with that. But do I like going out? I love being outside. My hobbies are gardening and hiking.
See?
I'm outside.
What's that?
So I love going out. So there were things like that. And then there was like one question was, when you get finished a project or something, do you feel you need to make changes to it or something like that? And I was thinking, well, I have a very strong need to get my assignments, like if I'm going to university or whatever, the assignments get done and handed in on time.
Yeah.
I don't procrastinate about it. It gets done and because it has to, that's the rules. That's the due date. You have to hand it in. And I'm a rule follower. But at the same time, when I hand in my assignment, I go right home and I keep making changes. And so I'll hand in my essay, but I'm still editing it afterwards.
Well,
And people might
really
think that's
those
silly.
things, not really.
But-
They're supposed to be learning exercises.
Yeah.
So you
And
keep on
that's how I
learning.
take it. Like I've handed it in on time because I have to. Whereas other people I know don't hand them in on time and they take the penalties because they're perfectionists and they care more about what the instructor will think or whatever.
Well-
Whereas I don't care what the instructor thinks.
Well, I'm that way, but there are people who are always asking for extensions.
Yeah.
It's a different
But I
thing, right?
do not. I get them in on time and then I make my corrections on my own time. Like I am my own, I decide when my work is done. And so I didn't really know how to answer that question. Like I have books that I've worked on, I haven't published them and they're done. But I think, well, I might make changes 10 years from now, so maybe I should hold it back and not publish it, right? So I have a lot like that, and you might think, oh, well, you're procrastinating about that. No, it's why. For me, it's not done. For other people, it might be, whatever. I don't know. So, the machine. Now, that one was a
That's
comedy.
gruesome, eh? Is that like
Yeah,
machinery there? Yeah.
but it's about a guy who's a comedian, and he ends up getting involved with some Russian mobster people, and he's in Russia, and murders happen, and all this sort of stuff.
Oh, you don't
But
have
it's
to
a
get
comedy.
involved in Russia with the Russian mob. They've been over here since the 90s. Fact is, some of the folks that were competition for Willie Picton for killing weren't just local stuff like Hell's Angels. There was the South Asian mob, the East Asian mob, the Vietnamese mob, the Russian mob, and there was one more. But yeah, fun times. Thank you, folks from elsewhere. Bringing you got your opportunity now, big opportunity, and you're oppressing the natives here, not just the indigenous people, but white folks. Thank you very much.
So anyway, in this show, at one point he's like, "Are we actually high-fiving over a murder?" And so I don't know. I guess he's trying to say, yeah, this is kind of dark comedy or whatever, but it kind of bothered me, honestly. And Concrete Cowboys, this wasn't worth watching at all. Unless, I mean, you have two very good-looking people in it. But I think, honestly, that's all they...
You know, I don't think Tom Selleck would be considered nearly as good-looking as considered back in the day. I think people would consider him a little bit hairy.
Well,
No?
yeah, that's just it, is back at that
big
time,
hairy
then
eyebrows.
men with a lot of hair, that was attractive.
Mustachy.
And then, you know, by the time the 90s
Tyler
rolled
Clark
around,
Shadow.
and I was into looking at heartthrobs or whatever, then that was not the look. And it hasn't been. Hairy men has not been the look.
Not since then? No.
Yeah.
So it definitely was in the 80s. You know, he had one of the biggest TV shows. Some people would have said back in the day one of the hottest. But, yeah.
But yeah, speaking of cowboys, Concrete Cowboys. Anyway, I looked up the dates on Lone Ranger Season 1, and I don't know where I put that. It was something like 1949, I think.
Oh, that late. We
Yeah,
were
I think
figuring
so.
maybe about 1940.
I don't know
But
where
at
I
any
put
rate,
it.
yeah, okay, so that wasn't much before I was born. Okay.
And then, I don't know where I wrote it down. I did write it somewhere, but anyway, and Batman Season 1 was something like 1966, so it was quite a bit later.
Well, I remember that. See, like we were in Calgary then.
Well,
And,
the other day I was talking about how the Batman and Robin are basically like they were retelling of the Lone Ranger Tonto hero
I
thing.
never really thought about that.
I was wondering if you thought about that, but it's totally...
Well, you see, if Lone Ranger is 49, that's after Batman.
Mhm.
Batman would date to around World War II. I think.
Yeah.
So that might be the other way around. Anyway, I want to say,
All right.
so I guess we're finished.
I guess
Morgan Fairchild. I
Yeah.
thought she'd never grow old.
Oh, well, I guess everyone does.